So what we have to do now in the Meghalaya section, how we are going to prepare it, we will be preparing one separate copy first. Whether you are going for self-study or whether you are into these classes, it doesn't matter. We have a separate class for this Meghalaya section. We are starting today. So the course is preparing and all the description is getting written for the course. So by half an hour, you will be able to see that course in our app. So there will be separate course for Meghalaya, and because the majority of the students, they are inquiring that if their GS is complete, then they can opt for that course. So we will having a separate course for Meghalaya here. So even if you are not joining, even if you're trying to prepare it with the self-study, then how we are going to prepare? So this is our course, this is our first class for Meghalaya, and we will put this on YouTube also so that our viewers can get benefited for that also. So in my opinion, do not go for self-study because you will not find all the content at one place. But still, if you can, if you are willing to go into the self-study mode, then you can just follow these things. Okay. And what will be our course overview? That these things I will discuss today, that how we are going to cover, what things we are going to cover in the Meghalaya section, that I will discuss here with you now. Anyway, so we have divided it into 5 sections first of all. Okay, there are 5 sections: section 1, section 2, section 3, section 4, section 5. So if you are preparing one notebook, suppose this is your notebook, then this notebook should be divided into 5 sections. That means this notebook must contain 5 sections, which is even given in the syllabus. Those 5 sections should have to be there. So section 1 is history. Okay. Section 2 will be polity. Section 3 will be geography. Section 4 will be culture. Like this, you have to divide your copy into sections. And we will be studying these 5 sections very, very thoroughly, because 99% of the questions will come from these 5 sections. So what will happen? How we are going to prepare it? So you will make one copy, and that copy has to be Meghalaya special copy, which you have to prepare. So before prelims, before mains exam, you will be only revising this notebook, this copy. Okay. So in section 1, we will discuss about the history of Meghalaya. And always remember, whenever this is a state specific exam, then you have to put more emphasis. You have to go in-depth study, do the in-depth study of that particular topic as far as the state is concerned. Okay, so we will discuss about the history of Meghalaya. That is, history is again divided into 4 segments. One is ancient and early history, in which you will have to understand about what is Meghalayan age, what are the Paleolithic evidences present in this region related to the Paleolithic history. So what kind of other things are available in this region related to Paleolithic or proto-historic age. Okay. Then what are the things associated with the ancient period? For example, origin and migration of Khasi, Jaintia and Garo tribes. How these tribes stayed there in Meghalaya even from the even around very, very ancient period. So what is the origin? How far they have developed? All these things you have to cover in the ancient period. Then there were other cultures. Meghalitic cultures are present in the state of Meghalaya. There are certain evidences. So what are those sites? What are the evidences which is found by the historians? And what sort of historical, political, social, economic history is associated with these findings? You will have to understand. So there in section 1, that is history of Meghalaya. So in history, you will divide this further into subsections, which is the first subsection is the ancient part. So we can discuss all the archaeological evidences related to different sites. Then early trade routes, social systems before colonial contact, even from the before the contact of Britishers, what kind of practices were there, what kind of social aspects were there, that all should be covered in the ancient history of Meghalaya. Then the next segment after this will be the medieval period, because you will always find that there is a kingdom formation or state formation in the medieval period in large parts of the India. So even in Northeast, there will be a state formation, because you will see that there are certain states present there. Koch kingdom is there, then Mughal Empire, which is the most significant empire, and it is at its peak of its power during the medieval period, especially during 16th and 17th century, because after that, when the Britishers when the Britishers came in northern part of India, then the Mughals were subdued by them. But eventually, during this period, during the medieval period, they are of very high, their political might is very, very significant during this period. So there will be Koch kingdom, there will be Ahom kingdom, there will be Kachari kingdom, there will be kingdom of Jaintia, kingdom of Manipur, all these kingdoms are there. So in medieval period, you will have to see this, how these polities interacted with each other, For example, local chiefdoms, then local kingdoms, especially related to the state of Meghalaya. Then there will be economic and political systems during medieval period, that what kind of some feudal, whether there was feudalism, whether there was absence of feudalism, whether there was centralized administration ongoing, whether they were part of certain kind of chiefdoms is there. So those things you have to understand from the medieval period of Meghalaya. Then their relationship, that whether there was a hostile relationship between these rulers, whether there was matrimonial alliance, whether there was what kind of diplomatic relations these people or these kings, these estates were having with each other, these things we have to understand in the medieval period. Then coming to the colonial period, again, because you will see the British entered into the country around 1608, but they could not get a solid ground. They were involved only in trading and having their conflict with their counterparts like French and Dutch people. So they never entered into political things. They never interfered into the political affairs of the local rulers in the beginning. But due to certain conditions and the weakness of the local rulers, they interfered in the politics, and after that they saw huge profits. So what happened after that, they started their journey from South India, and the similar kind of thing they applied in the North India also. So their political journey started in India, and due to the chances or due to the prevailing conditions of that period, they gathered, they had a very strong, they created a stronghold in the country, and after that they became the most dominant power in the country, subduing all other states. So this colonial period, so basically what will happen, they will the Britishers will launch their own forest policies because of the modernization and installation of railways. So they will come in conflict with the local rulers, especially in the tribal areas. There will be a lot of tribal uprisings in the state of Jharkhand, in the state of Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh. All these areas you will see tribal uprisings. Then there will be some uprisings by the local rulers or chiefs, the warlords. So they also entered into these things. As whatever associated with the state of Meghalaya, you will have to understand. And for example, any kind of resistance movement is there, then you will have to understand the leaders present at that time who resisted against the colonial movement or the colonial empire. Some Khasi leaders, some Jaintia leaders, Yu Tirot Singh, Patogan, Sangma, Kiang Nongba. These things you have to understand here. Then there will be certain impact of British rule on local administration and land, because the British introduced a modern system. Earlier there was traditional system of ruling, political, whatever political system was there, it was traditional in nature. There was more emphasis on local bodies. So what British did, they introduced their modern system, modern judiciary, modern executive, legislature, all these were introduced by the British, and this created a havoc in the regions where there was tribal presence, or where there were the villagers were completely not very learned in the English language or all this. So there was a vernacular system of judiciary or as well as the education is there. British introduced their own system. So it will create some kind of impact on the traditional system. So that things we have to understand in the colonial history of Meghalaya. Then after independence, after the British left the country, they transferred the power in the hands of the Indian people. So what happened with the state after independence, after getting independence, the first things we have to discuss in the post-independence consolidation. You can call this topic also post-independence reorganization, post-independence consolidation, post-independence issues, all these things associated with the same topic. Okay, so integration with Assam after 1947, then in 1972, how this separated, the journey from 1947 to 1972, how the state started demanding autonomy and how the state was formed, separate state was formed. So all these things you have to understand in post-independence history, post-independence consolidation of the Meghalaya, the state of Meghalaya. So after completing this, you just completed section 1, that is the history of Meghalaya. Now coming to the second section, that is geography, which is again a very important section in which, because it has a very diverse landform. The Meghalaya has a diverse landform, very different kind of climatic pattern, extremely unique in the way the rain occurs here. So everything is different here. So first we will start with general introduction. This is again a subsection of geography. General introduction simply means that what is the latitude, longitude, what is the location of Meghalaya, what kind of neighboring states are there, what are the boundaries are there, and different physiographic setting, not only from the Meghalaya, entire northeast, you have to understand the physiographic setting of the northeast. that what are the major hills, where the Himalaya, Purvanchal Himalaya is there, what are the major plateau regions, are there certain kind of plain regions, all this you have to understand for the entire northeast first. That will become the general introduction of Meghalaya. Anyway, then this thing we will cover with the help of a map, and we will understand this in a very in-depth way, this general introduction. Then significance within the Indian Himalayan and plateau system, because you will find there is again a very special thing associated with Meghalaya. What is happening that whenever, I don't want to go into much details of these topics, but still I want to give you an overview of the entire thing what we are going to study for Meghalaya. So I will just, for some topics I have to give a little bit of anecdotes here. So if this is Indian plate, this is the peninsular part of India, and what is happening when the peninsular part started moving northwards and collided with the Eurasian plate, Himalaya formed, the hills of Himalaya they formed. Now what will happen? Now if you see this part, the northeastern part of this Indian peninsular, this was Shillong, this was the modern day Shillong. So now the Meghalaya becomes, the modern day state of Meghalaya geographically is at the border, just where the Himalaya started to develop after collision of this Indian plate with the Eurasian plate. It happened around 65 billion years ago, 65 million years ago, not billion, 65 million years ago, 6.5 crore saal ago. So these things happened during this period, and that part is still present in the Shillong region. So you will find that there is again it is of high importance as far as the Meghalaya is concerned, that the Indian Himalayan and the plateau system of India, you have to understand that in a in-depth manner, because again this is coming, this is of high significance as far as the Meghalaya is concerned. Even for the other states also it is important, but that is it will be covered in the geography of GS1. But here you have to put a special emphasis on these topics. So section 2, geography. So the first thing will be general introduction. Then after general introduction in geography, we will discuss about the physiographic divisions of Meghalaya at length, because without understanding the physiographic setting of a region, you cannot understand the culture, food habits, everything. Because the physiography decides what will happen with the history, how the societies will form, what kind of people will live there, okay, what will the population pattern, and everything is decided by the physiographic divisions. So the next thing you have to do is you have to understand that where are the hills located, because physiographic divisions means that in the entire region, where are mountains located, where are the river systems located, where are the various kind of other things, other kind of landforms. Landforms are not of very diverse kind, it is 4 to 5 types of landforms are there. There can be desert, so desert is not present here, so leave desert. Island groups are not present here. So only hills and rivers you will find here, because there is as far as the plain area is concerned, plain area is also very less in Meghalaya. It is a hilly state. So anyway, with this we will be understanding how the physiographic division is present in the, what are the major physiographic divisions in Meghalaya. Then important peaks, plateaus, you have to understand their name, their significance, geographical point of view. There can be the significance associated with the social point of view also, cultural point of view also, but here we will consider only from the geographical point of view here. Okay. Now after physiographic divisions, here you will be understanding about the drainage and climate, because again from the drainage system a large number of questions come in MPSC, MCS exam, or as well as any other state exam. So drainage system basically means that if there is a rainfall in this region, so whatever rainfall in this region will happen, this entire rain will drain out from one single source, and that will be the river system. Okay. So suppose the rainfall is here, and this area is a depression. So from this river, all the water will flow away to the ocean, to the sea, if there is a sea, or to the adjoining major river. So this happens, this is called as drainage system, how the water drains out from an area. Okay. So you have to understand what other rivers are present in this region. It can be a major river, it can be a minor river. But all the rivers you have to understand, whatever river has even flowed from the Meghalaya, and even if it is not flowing from Meghalaya, but if there is some association with the nearby river, then you have to understand that also. So drainage system and climate, again, like I said earlier, that it has a very different kind of rainfall happening in the Meghalaya, more than annual rainfall 1200 centimeter plus annual rainfall. So again you have to understand from the perspective of climate, because once there is a huge rainfall in this region, then the entire vegetation will be very thick. You will have a very highly dense forest present in this area, evergreen forest present in this area. So similarly, the species which are dependent on these forests, they will be again a very typical nature. The species will have similarity with the western ghats. But anyway, these things we have to understand here in the drainage and climate area. What is the rainfall pattern? What is the climatic zones? Why there is more rainfall? What is the funneling effect taking place in Cherrapunji, Mosinamo? All these things we have to understand here. Okay. Now this thing is done. Then after this, we will have to, in geography, in Meghalaya geography, we will have to understand the soil, vegetation, agriculture and minerals. That what sort of agriculture is there, because like I said, in the climate section we will study about the rainfall. Then because of heavy rainfall, and there will be only, means you can say that there will be lot of percolation going down in the soil horizon. So soil profile you have to understand, why it is different soil profile from the rest of the country. What is the difference between soil of Meghalaya and soil of Haryana, because Haryana has lot of evaporation taking place there. That sort of evaporation is not there. So soil depends on evaporation rate, what kind of soil structure will be there, and the bedrock over it. So these things you will understand here in the Meghalaya section. Soil types, fertility regions, the area where the fertility is too high, that area will be agricultural based area, otherwise agriculture cannot be practiced here. Then forest cover, biodiversity, all the significance from this perspective. Then there will be certain crops which are grown in Meghalaya like rice, maize, broom grass, betel leaf, turmeric, oranges. There can be other crops also. Some crops may be GI tagged also. So all these we have to learn in this segment. Then there will be certain minerals, because the areas where the old rocks are exposed, the rocks of the Arki and Dharwar, all these rocks, whenever there is the rocks are exposed, there will be some mineral in that area. So if there is certain mineral, if there is certain Gondwana coal is present in Meghalaya, then all the coal reserves, oil reserves, even there will be oil reserves also. So all these things we have to understand here. Uranium, sillimanite, clay, all these things we have to understand in this thing. This is basically associated with economic geography. Okay. Now in the geography segment, let's come to another, that is population demography, which is again very important from the perspective of Meghalaya, because the rest of the country has not heard of various kind of tribes which are living in Meghalaya. There will be huge number of tribes. Even the people living in city area in Meghalaya, they might not have heard about those PVTGs. So again, at very in-depth study you have to do for this population and demography. That basically tribal distribution is there. We from childhood we know that there are Garo, Khasi, Jaintia tribes are there, but apart from them, there are other tribes which are not heard too much in the news or somewhere. There can be large number of tribes. So the important tribes we will cover here. Then what is the literacy rate, what is the sex ratio and urbanization trend in Meghalaya, that we will have to understand again. Then migration, how many types of migration, what is, first of all, what is migration, how many types of migration and why there is migration, all these things from the mains perspective as well as prelims perspective you have to understand both. Then demographic challenges, what kind of demographic challenges are associated with the state of Meghalaya. And with this, your geography, that is section 2, will be over. And after you have completed this section 2, now you have a very good hold of this Meghalaya section, because now the things are, I think the element, the content of the next items will be low. Up to this point, there will be huge content. Okay. So now talking about the next thing is section 3, that is polity. So this will have a low content, because majority of the things you will be studying in general studies paper of polity. Okay, so most of the things will come from polity, that is Lakshmikant or somewhere. So, but there will be certain things associated with a special status or something with the associated directly with the Meghalaya. For example, this autonomous district councils, ADCs. You can see here the logo is there. This is the Garo Hill Autonomous District Council. And likewise, why this council is, what leads to the formation, means the background of these things you have to understand, that what is the constitutional status of this autonomous hill district council, what are the legal provisions associated with which, what is the powers delegated to it, what kind of remedy, what kind of judicial status is there. So everything you have to associate it with these things you need to understand. Then it is coming under 6th schedule again. Now you have to read about what is 6th schedule, what are the things mentioned in the sixth schedule, what if there is a kind of a special status given, then you have to understand that also. Then special constitutional safeguards for tribal administration, because you will always you have to understand that in India, in all the states wherever there is tribal presence, they have their own traditional political system. For example, in Jharkhand, the Munda tribe has a different political system which they are practicing since the prehistoric ages. Then again in Madhya Pradesh, they have a different kind of traditional system. All the tribes are having their own, they have their own kings also. They have their own priests also. They have their own what you call symbolic army, not the army which carry weapon, but there is a symbolic term used for their armies also, because they created certain kind of boys. They raised the boys as a army which used to fight, because there will be intertribal conflict always, or even if there is some outsider is coming, there will be conflict with that also. So they had certain kind of terminology for that also. So everywhere there is a special provision, a special safeguard given to these political systems throughout the country, not only in Meghalaya but in the entire country. In Jharkhand, in Madhya Pradesh, in Chhattisgarh, the tribal political system which they are practicing from generation to generations, it has given certain kind of safeguards from the state. So these things we have to understand in polity. Then in the polity itself, the administrative setup, but most of the thing will be covered in general studies. Like I said, there can be certain things associated with the executive, legislature, judiciary from the perspective of Meghalaya, because this section is coming from mostly from the current affairs segment. Okay. So if there are certain recent judgments associated with the judiciary, High Court of Meghalaya, all these things you have to concentrate upon it. So this is a dynamic section. In the static part, it will be covered in general studies. Static, we need not study separately for the judiciary of Meghalaya, because the judiciary will be functioning similar manner as of any other judiciary in the country. Similar, the legislature, there can be unicameral assembly structure. What is the structure of there? In many states there are unicameral assemblies. Then executive, governor is there, chief minister, all these things are similar to that. So in the polity section, always you have to emphasize on whether they have something special or not, something traditional or not. If there is something traditional in the rural local body, urban local body, they have something traditional, then you have to read about that. So polity will be not very big content will be there, but anyway. Then local self-government, how these ADCs have a legislative and financial power. I said earlier, what are their political status is there. Urban local bodies, rural local, but Panchayati Raj institutions and all these things, how they are involved. So this is most important from the mains perspective, not from prelims perspective. For prelims perspective, current affairs is more important, because if there can be some new acts coming in that state, in the state of Meghalaya, new acts coming from the legislature of the Meghalaya, certain kind of recent issues related to young people, certain kind of issues related to some kind of traditional practice, anything can be there which has been gathered some eye from the people and which is in center of the news. Then those topics are important which are associated with these things, these provisions. So anyway, then role of traditional in the polity itself, the role of traditional institutions, like I said, there will be various tribal governance systems present in the state. It is present in every state. So here also that Khasi Samesips. First, I want to tell you one more thing. It is apart from the thing which we are discussing here. It is just my personal thing that because we are from North India based people, so there can be some pronunciation mistakes. It is not a mistake. We will try to pronounce these things, but it can in appearance, in hearing, it will not be very similar to what the people of Meghalaya are speaking. Maybe the accent may differ, okay, but spelling will be correct, will be there, and we will, because once we interact with the students, then we try to ask them that how this thing is pronounced there, okay. So this is how we interact with the students, and they teach us a lot of things that this thing is pronounced, because this problem will be faced by you also when you come to if you clear the UPSC, you come to interview. The pronunciation issues will be there in the country India. If I go in southern states, there will be certain terminologies which I cannot pronounce the way they can pronounce. When they come to in the north side, they cannot pronounce certain things which I can pronounce. So this is a problem, and this is again a very majestic thing about India, that how this is happening, how everybody is living together and still manage to live together. So this is the beauty of India. Anyway, so if there is certain kind of means in accent, if it is sounding different, then you can just simply ask me over the phone call or over WhatsApp that what that meant. So and you can tell me that this is in the accent, it should sound like this. Then I will incorporate that thing and again lecture in the next lectures. You got it? So do not panic that how this person's accent is going to, because in my accent there can be certain things I cannot exactly pronounce and you will get offended also sometimes. But don't get offended. We cannot simply pronounce. We will learn it eventually. Within 6 months, 5 months, we get used to any language. So this will happen here also. Anyway, so let's start what we were discussing. So Khasi Shayamsips, Dorbar Strong and Dorbar Raid, Jantia Doloi system, Garo Nokma system, all these are various what. So from these political systems which are practiced by traditional people, there will be some kind of a structure associated with a structure of these tribal polity, a structure, then roles of the various officials mentioned in their traditional system. So all these things you have to study here. Then coexistence of these systems with modern governance institutions. This modern system was introduced by the British themselves. That you will understand in colonial history of Meghalaya, that when the British introduced their system of revenue collection, their system of agriculture, their system of taxation, everything was introduced by the British after they colonized the country. So how these political systems coexisted with that system from the days of British, after the independence, what changes were made. So these things you have to understand from this point. Anyway, so now in the polity section, these things were there, and now we come to the third section 4, that is the socio-economic. Again, this part is very, very small, and this socio-economic section, this is from the perspective of mains. Okay. So from this will be important from the perspective of mains. It is not going to come in prelims exam. There may be certain kind of questions maybe in prelims, but now this question will be highly analytical in nature, and you will have to understand, you will have to think deeply about these topics, about these issues. So social economic issues are a topic from mains exam, and which we will discuss later during our mains mentorship time. So like I said, there will be a separate batch, and the classes will maybe start from tomorrow for Meghalaya. So altogether there will be 3 classes per day. One class I will be taking, another class another faculty will be taking, and maybe either of one of those faculties they will be taking Meghalaya Special also. So these 3 classes may be running simultaneously, and if there will be problem because 3 classes per day one student finds difficult because all are working, then we will restrict it to 2 classes. So I will come next month. So maybe another faculty will be taking 2 classes, one for geography, another thing for this Meghalaya Special. Meghalaya will be keeping along with the other things. GS will be there, then Meghalaya will be parallelly, it will be always, the classes will be happening here. Because I don't want that the person may suffer in the Meghalaya section. I want that every person from Meghalaya, every student from Meghalaya should excel in this paper. And in interview, because in interview most of the questions will be coming from Meghalaya itself, then I want you to go and excel in this paper, okay, as well as in the interview. Now let me just tell you that what kind of things you will be studying in socio-economic issues in Meghalaya. So first thing which is common in Northeast, common in Punjab, common in some South Indian states, the problem of drug abuse. It is not exclusive problem of Meghalaya, it is a problem of Northeast, Punjab, and then some South Indian states. So this is the problem. And alcohol is a similar kind of problem again in Punjab, again in Northeast, again in these South Indian states. So these issues are there. These are one of the social issues which you have to understand what is their solution, what kind of things government has done in the past, and what are the new initiatives, new schemes incorporated by the government of Meghalaya to eradicate these problems. In this manner you have to prepare it. Then there will be problem of tribal identity, because Tribals again in the country will come in vulnerable section. Not in Meghalaya, because in Meghalaya the majority of the population is for the tribals. So tribals cannot become a vulnerable section, but the identity crisis will always be there. Identity crisis means, for example, it is a issue throughout the country. For example, let us take the issue of Jharkhand. Then in Jharkhand, the tribal people are demanding a separate religion. That in the census of India, there should be a separate box for Sarna religion. Currently, they are putting a tick mark in the census for Hinduism. But they say that we are not Hindus, we are a different religion, we practice Sarnaism. Similar kind of things can come here. So, tribal identity will always be a issue, and resolving it is very difficult. It is a challenging thing. Anyway, so tribal identity, autonomy, cultural preservation, all these things will be some social and economic issues. So this is basically social issue, not an economic issue. But anyway, border disputes with Assam and inter-tribal tensions, all these things will be discussed here. Then major socio-economic challenges, these are other major socio-economic challenges, and which you have to understand that, for example, poverty, unemployment, this will be there. Then poor infrastructure, lack of connectivity problem from the, these will be the problem which is common in all the northeastern states. Okay. Then agriculture, underdevelopment in agriculture, this is a problem associated with the Assam also, because Assam has everything. They have fertile land is there, then climate is also good, rainfall is also more than 200 centimeters. Still the agriculture is not well developed because of lack of investment and use of traditional practices. So no issues with that. Anyway, so what we are discussing here, these are the other major issues, and these are very common issues prevalent in the entire northeast states, not only in Meghalaya. Then health education, again this will be a problem in hilly areas. Problem in Jharkhand, all these, and not only in hilly areas, the areas affected by left-wing extremism also. Whether if there are no hilly areas, then there are areas which are affected by left-wing extremism, and most of the left-wing extremism is present in the tribal areas, tribal belts. Okay, so because they cannot come up in the city, if a Maoist is there, he cannot just conduct their operations from a city. So they target these areas in which the tribals are living. They target the villages. Okay. And if you see the operations of Ulfa in Northeast and other insurgent gangs in groups in Northeast, their centers are present in the far-flung villages. Okay. So anyway, and because of that thing, health and this educational things will suffer in that area, and which leads to again migration. The students of Northeast will have to go in other states to study, where they will face other problems. Even I face problem. I have been to 17, 18 states, and I was I stayed in Kerala for 4 months. There was a very big college in which I was going to take some classes, and I had to, because on the demand of students, I had to extend my classes there for other subjects also. So every time at night I could not eat, because they prepared their food in coconut oil. It may be healthy, but it doesn't suits me. Okay, because of these things. And so Northeast people will come, they will face these things, these issues. So why not? And even if the South Indian comes to North India, he will face this issue. Why there is too much migration? Because there is no adequate health facility, as well as education opportunities, as well as job opportunities also in these states. If you try to find a job, you will get a low paying job. I have seen in Assam, the employers always pay very less. If you see in plantations, tea plantations, then in tea plantation, I went there in 2022, visited the tea plantation along with my students. I came to know that the salary was 150 rupees per day for the male people and 140 rupees per day for the female worker, the lady who goes there to pick those tea leaves. And I was shocked to see this thing. Means how one person can survive in 5,000 or 6,000 rupees per month. It is impossible in this inflation, at this inflation rates, it is impossible to survive at this salary, meager wage. So due to certain kind of tensions, they will always engage in what? they will engage in poverty, and they have become poverty, and there is unemployment, and they will engage in all the activities like alcoholism. So out of 150 rupees per day, 100 rupees they will consume the alcohol, because again alcohol is also costly. And they will consume, the costly means 100 rupees alcohol is not going to benefit the body. Alcohol never benefits the body, but it will just give some medical. So I cannot say it is a domino effect. These are the problems I have witnessed firsthand. I have first-hand experience of these problems. Okay. So gender inequality and women's empowerment, this is not a very big issue in Meghalaya because of the matrilineal system. The women are empowered. So this may not be a big issue, but since this is a very generic topic. Okay. So since this is a generic topic, you have to understand that not from the perspective of Meghalaya, but from the perspective of other states, you have to understand it. Okay. Then environmental degradation due to mining. Again, this is not a society or a social problem. This may be a economic problem. Okay. You can connect this with society also, but that we will discuss whenever we will take this topic, we will discuss that there. We cannot discuss there here in overview. Then there is urbanization and rural migration issue. This is again a social problem, because urbanization simply means means what we call, if you go in urban area, what you will see that in urban area the economic activities are basically different than in rural area. Economic activities means in urban area no one goes for primary activities. Primary like agriculture and all these fisheries, these are primary activities. Whatever you get from the nature you use directly. These are the primary activities. So in urban areas you will never find people engaging in primary activities. They engage in secondary activities. So what happens? Whenever there is urbanization, that means the secondary economic activities are getting much more important than the primary activities. This is the simple way in which urbanization takes place, urbanization happens. Anyway, so this thing we have to understand. Then rural migration issue, why the people from the rural areas are coming to urban areas, even in the different states they are going. These things are also you have to read. So these are the socio-economic challenges. Then in section 5, this is the final section in which what we are going to study. In the final section, culture and heritage of Meghalaya we will have to understand. So in the culture segment, without understanding the culture you cannot answer. This is very important from the perspective of prelims. Okay. And from mains, in the mains exam you will find 2-3 questions from culture, but very important from the prelims. There will be a lot of questions in the prelims. So in the culture you have to understand the different ethnic groups present here. How they means as a general, what is their culture. Then the other groups, 3 major groups like Khasi, Jaintia, Garo, what kind of cultural practices they are having. Not only these 3 groups, these are dominant groups, but there are other there are other ethnic groups, there are other tribals also present there. They can have their own different way of living. So we will have to understand that also from the Meghalaya. Then there will be distinct traditions, dialects and cultural expressions, and this is again one subsection of the section 5, that is culture basically. This is the last thing. Then the social structure, I discussed about the matrilineal system, then village councils, I discussed in polity also. In cultural system also you will have to understand something from these segments. And then the religion and belief system, because without understanding the belief system you cannot understand the people of any region. Means what sort of belief system, what kind of religions are present here, whether there is Hinduism is more, whether there is Christianity is there, because with the introduction of Christianity by the British introduced Christianity in the tribal belts of India. Okay, so there will be presence of Christians, large number of Christians in this region. Then what kind of culture they are having, then what are other groups present in this region. So you will have to understand in that light what are the belief systems. Because if a person is living in Meghalaya, he is appearing for an exam in Meghalaya and trying to become the ADM or something, some officer in the state, then he must be understanding these belief systems. Okay, so that is why these things will be given in syllabus, and in exam it is very important. Then coexistence and syncretism of beliefs, how these different belief systems live together, So again, this is a very different. So this subsection will be important from mains perspective. And these things, indigenous belief systems and nature worship, this is from prelims again. I have not categorized here that what will come in prelims, what will come in mains, because that we will cover in the classes. When we start the classes, we will cover there that this will be from prelims, this will be from mains. Okay, this happens. Then again, very important thing, language, literature and folklore, that is Khasi language, Garo language, how their scripts are there and what kind of things they will have to understand. Then folk tales, myths, legends. As legends and myths are not sources of history, authentic sources of history, but still some sections from these myths are incorporated in the history. They tell about the history. They are helpful in historiography. So these things you have to understand. Then early writers, missionary influences on literature or modern influence on literature, traditional literature, what is the folk literature. So everything we have to understand. And the final section, not final, the festivals and cultural expressions. In the culture, we will have to cover Khasi festivals, Jaintia festivals, Garo festivals and other festivals which are unheard. See, in state PCS, the festivals which are not very popular are also important, because they may come in a state exam. They may not come in UPSC, but they will come in a state PCS exams. The festivals which are not very popular, but still they are present in that state. So because since there are large number of tribes, they can have different kind of festivals which are not very popular, but still prevalent, still practiced in the state. So these things we have to discuss here. Then cultural symbolism, what kind of symbols are used in different cultures. From there also questions may come in exam. Then finally, art, music and dance. Again, the art can be in different form. Art can be sculpture art, art can be painting, art can be any other thing. Music can be there, dance can be there. So we will have to understand what different kind of, if there is presence of some classical dance forms, classical music, we will have to learn it. If there is only folk or folk dances or folk music present, we will have to understand that. Then different musical instruments. If there is traditional instruments, some kind of instruments have got some special GI tagging or special some kind of cultural importance in the country, then those instruments are very important again. Then after this, the traditional art and handicrafts. So some art can be recognized by the government of India as a unique art from that state. So those things are important here. And finally, the last thing you have to understand in the culture is, so traditional attire and food culture, because different tribes, different ethnicities, they have a different cuisine which one should be aware of. So after preparing these 5 segments, 5 sections, you will be in a comfortable position. That means after covering these 5 sections, almost you will be able to solve 95% questions of GS 6. That is the Meghalaya paper. And in prelims, what happened? In prelims, you will find around more than 33% plus questions. There will be more than, out of 100 questions, you will find 35 to 40 questions from Meghalaya, which you have to solve and which will be coming from these 5 sections.